to break enemies.
Sup guys, Mooky here, and I'm back with another part of What If Izuku Had Archer's Powers. This is part 19, so in the last part, Izuku and everyone else got back from their internships, and they're preparing for their final exam, as they believe that they're going against robots. However, they're going against their teachers. Well, and also I made a little bit of differences in this one, with Bakugo and Shoto facing against All Might, and Izuku and Momo going against Aizawa. Also, before the video ends, please stay at the end, and because I have to ask you guys something anyway. That's it. Let's get into this. Right after hearing that they'll be fighting against their teachers, everyone is surprised and wonder if they can even handle something like this, if they can even take on their teachers. Soon after, everyone tells them that all the teachers will be having weights on them, so they will lower their speed and have more of a handicap, so they can help it, so the students won't feel too overwhelmed. Actually, so as always, also I'll explain on why I changed up some things. With going back to when back in canon, Aizawa chose Izuku and Bakugo to fight against All Might because of Izuku's relationship with All Might, and Bakugo hating Izuku, since the two barely haven't, always arguing and everything. But in this one, I chose Bakugo and Shoto to be going against All Might because the two of them have a hard time working together and getting along. Bakugo sees Todoroki as somebody who's still pretty spoiled, especially when is still angry about him not giving it his all against them in the sports festival. And not only that, Shoto also doesn't really like Bakugo either, because he thinks of Bakugo like his father, ambitious and only cares about himself. But we all know Bakugo isn't like that, especially when it comes to Izuku. So that's the very reason why Aizawa put them together. However, in this one, Izuku and Momo are together not because of their relationship, because the two of them rely on their quirk too much. He also wants to help Izuku find a way to use it to fight without having to use his quirk all the time. And the same also goes with Momo. She's become way more confident thanks to Izuku. Wants to see if she can keep that confidence under pressure. So that's the reason why. At any rate, let's get into this. As all the other events just like canon as always, like with Kirishima and Sato losing against Mentos, and with Mina and Kaminari also losing against Principal Nezu, and as usual, and everything else, and all the other matches goes planned as always. So no major changes there. But let's get into the match between Bakugo and Shoto versus All Might. As the exam begins, Todoroki wants to ask Bakugo if they should start a plan, as Bakugo tells him that he'll handle this himself, but however, he wants him to support him with his flames or his ice, and after that, they'll take him down. As Shoto says, but you know how powerful All Might is. You really believe something like that can beat him? As you think I can't handle myself? As Bakugo gets angry and almost getting into Shoto's face. Soon after, All Might's punch finally reached them at the entrance, as he arrives, speaking like a villain. It doesn't matter if I destroy the city or not. I'll show you. Come, heroes. Can you beat me, or will you run away? That is your choices. As Bakugo rushes at All Might at full speed with his explosions and trying to slam him down, Shoto uses his ice to try and trap All Might, but little do they know, it barely does anything for bringing them down at all. With Bakugo being slammed on the ground and Shoto, without even noticing, All Might standing right behind him and basically knocking him back to where Bakugo is. As the two hardly working together, however, they realize that they can't keep fighting like this. So they decide to mix things up. Shoto creates a giant volley of ice, trying to stop All Might in his tracks. However, all it does is just slow him down a little bit. However, that is the plan. As Shoto prepares his fire, Bakugo prepares to use one of his gauntlets for a giant explosion attack, basically the two flame attacks, dealing enough damage, putting All Might to his knees for a short moment. As Shoto tells Bakugo to go to the exit as soon as possible and tries to capture him, if knowing that wouldn't be too much to put him to fully knock him down. Shoto would be a distraction while Bakugo head to the entrance just in case if he failed. As Bakugo does this, he goes as fast as he can to the entrance, using his explosions. As Bakugo was almost there, he soon hears something being thrown. As Shoto was basically thrown right at Bakugo, as they both fall to the ground, wondering if All Might still, knowing that Shoto failed to stall him for a time being, as he knows that they're almost to the entrance. So, to finish this, Bakugo realized that they're going to need to get there as soon as possible before All Might fully arrives. Just before thinking, Bakugo basically threw Shoto right through the exit gate before Shoto could even react by using his explosions. As they were able to pass the exam, as the two feel sore and completely exhausted after such a grueling battle against the number one hero. As All Might tells the boys that the both of you have done well. If anything, you've done a lot better than I expect you would. So I have to say, well done. As Shoto basically extends his arm to Bakugo, and Bakugo wondering, what is this icy hot? As he says, thank you, Bakugo. You actually changed my opinion of you. You're not as bad as I thought you were. As he said, whatever. As the two had a grand handshake that of rivals instead of enemies. Soon after, the next match has started to begin, being the one between Izuku and Momo. As the two actually made a plan beforehand and decided to make things a lot more easier on themselves. Izuku decided to create his bow and a couple of arrows and a quiver just in case that his quirk is shut down by Eraserhead, just in case. Soon after, they used the same plan where Momo basically created, Russian nesting dolls just to make sure that Aizawa wasn't nearby. So, as soon as they stopped, Izuku basically fired tons of arrows right at Aizawa. Aizawa can barely react, knowing how fast Izuku can basically shoot arrows per second. And and decides to try to take his bow away from him while still using his quirk. However, Izuku still came prepared. He basically made one of his swords, being both Bakuya and Kenshiro, and able to fight, and telling Momo to run as soon as possible. And she, realizing that this is part of the plan, she still doesn't want to and leave Izuku to fight on his own. But she still follows through and heads out. As both Aizawa and Izuku fight as much as they can. As Aizawa thought that it would be a lot more easier to take him down since he relied way too much on weapons. But instead he actually does hold his own against Aizawa for a short time. But was still taken down pretty easily, and is tied up actually tied up just like how he did with Todoroki in canon, while leaving out spikes to make sure that if he does cut the line in any way, that he would fall on spike traps. Soon after, he goes after Momo, ready to take her down. However, she basically hides and decides to create a flashbang grenades, blinding Aizawa before he caught her. Planning this, she helps out Izuku there by helping him down from the trap without falling on the bear trap spikes. So soon after, this is still part of their plan, as Izuku decides to create Caliburn. But in this time, it would only be a distraction while Momo creates an electric net to bind Aizawa, while Aizawa thinks that he dodges the small sword's blast. It's soon after he's surrounded by a giant net, which ends up shocking him for a short time, as his entire body goes numb for a bit. He's soon captured by Izuku and Momo, allowing them to finally pass. Believing that the two relied way too much on their quirks, and decided to create things on hand before the match even began, realizing that they would have the upper hand. Knowing that these two worked well together in a situation where their quirks would be unusable allowing them to finally pass. And just as everything else, Aizawa told them that everyone would still be going to the summer camp just like before, and basically tell them to give it their all in the situation. Even those who failed the practical exam and the final practical exam will still be going, as everyone is excited. But they will be having remedial classes for such things. Soon after, everyone plans on going to the mall and getting a couple things for the summer camp before certain actions are taken. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it a lot. Also, the thing I wanted to ask is, because I know you guys want me to ship Izuku and Momo together since the beginning of part 3. However, I wanted to keep things platonic. Like, she can have a crush on him, but not act on those feelings. But if you guys want the two of them to be a couple, I will leave a comment below and suggestion on if they should be a couple, or she can still have a crush on him, just like how Ochiko has a crush on him, like in main canon, but not act on it. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Either they be a couple or not, depending on how many thumbs up I get on either one of the comments is the one I'll go with for the next one. Anyway, this is Mooky signing out. Later.